Hello and welcome to the Madison Saracen Factory Waiting Team podcast. Right now we're waiting to go racing and hope you're all well and making the best of this difficult situation. It's given us an opportunity to try something new, get creative and see where it takes us. Danny's a big fan of podcasts, so we said, why not? Let's give it a try. What could possibly go wrong? Well, as it turned out, everything. This is the second time we're trying to record. So bear with us and we'll give it a go. Right, who we've got in the room? We've got team today. We've got Danny Hart.
Hello, everyone.
His mechanic, Scott Mears, Matt Walker.
Hey.
His mechanic, Ewan Collier. Chief coach, Phil Dixon. So here we are, locked down, having a chat, crazy times. Anyone pick up any new hobbies?
Well, I've been practicing my balancing on I got an indoor board off the internet. It's been quite cool to learn something different. I'll maybe take up some proper surfing in the future. And I've also been Zwifting, which has been quite cool. I've got some elite rollers there, some smart rollers, so it's all linked up to Zwift, and it's actually quite addictive. So I used to take the mick out of Ewan a little bit because he's always on Zwift and never out riding.
Ewan is a Zwift pro, aren't you, Ewan?
Yeah, Danny was giving me some stick and told him he should try it, and here he is.
I'll have to do a Zwift do up by Ewan. Changing your weight and stuff. These things.
Yeah, I always put my copy weight in 45 kilograms.
Ewan and his wife actually share Zwift accounts, if my memory serves me rightly. But whose weight's on it?
We both weigh the same, so it's all right.
So for the past week, we've asked you guys for your questions. First up, Alex Keys, race car driver. This is a question that came from Instagram for Danny. Mattress related one, so we're straight in with the tech stuff. He says, why does Danny like the Minion DHR2 over the more popular Assegai tyre? He agrees with you. Your insight on it, Danny, really?
That's a good question. I have tried the Assegai tyre a couple of times over the past couple of years, I guess, but I guess I'm just a creature of habit, and I have two go-to tyres in the Maxxis range, so that's the shorty for when it's obviously really wet and muddy, and also when it's really dry and really like deep dust. So somewhere like Val di Sole and Andorra, I've used the shorty in the dry before, but when it comes to the DHR, I just know what I'm getting with that tyre. I've used it for a lot of years now, and just a creature of habit. It's just something I know the tyre, and I think it's a faster rolling tyre than the Assegai because it's a little bit smaller. So yeah, that's it really. It's faster rolling and just a bit of a creature of habit, and I like the DHRs.
I think you've got a question for Scott next then, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. We've got a question from our friend JP. He wants to know, Scott, how do you get so hench? What's the secret?
Well, I don't think I can give the legal answer to that, but we'll try. It's just hard work, really. You've just got to knuckle down, eat well, train hard, and get your supplements in. We use a few.
What we just had for lunch, Scott? What was it? What were them little trees?
One of them green trees.
Pork pie salad.
Pork pie salad. That's what it looked like.
What about for your hydration? What did you drink?
Most I like an electrolyte from the SI. Get the mick taken over as of the references I use for words, but
is it alcoholic electrolyte or
it might have a little nothing too bad, just to help us sleep at night. That's it.
I've got a question here for Ewan. Old Barnsley asks, well, he wants some tips off you for keeping the bike running smooth and rattle free. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the same stuff that we use is pretty quiet anyway. But yeah, our boys are hearing like bats really. So they keep us busy. We're trying to keep the bikes quiet. I mean, we use slapper tape and Velcro on the chain stays and seat stays, and just try and keep it rattle free really.
Any secrets from you, Scotty?
I mean, similar like what Ewan says. Obviously, the Shimano running gear, it's really good. The clutch system on the mech, that works really well. the frame's designed really well. The chain line stays quite straight with the chain stay, so you don't get a lot of noise from that. One thing Danny does do, not so much noise from the frame or from the bike, but more noise from the ground. He uses a flat tire defend in the rear. That dampens sort of the noise from the ground and also gives a little bit extra cushion on the tire as well. He works really well with that, and we've been using that all year last year. And we got on good with it.
Cool. Sounds good. Right, Dixie, you're up. Got a question for you. James Mackey wants to know, how can you plan for this season now to keep the boys in shape when we don't know when the first race is going to be or if we're going to have one at this stage. So how do you keep them in the shape they were when they were ready to go at the beginning of March? That's not an easy one to do, I shouldn't think.
No, it's not an easy one. Both the lads are really disappointed that the racing is off, as most of the athletes are. They've had a really good winter, both in really, really good shape. So straight away we discussed how we can use this opportunity really positively to maintain the shape they've got and maybe work a few different areas. So I think one of the key things for an athlete in this situation is to have routine in the program. So we created a basic week for the guys with 6 days training and 1 recovery day. On each day, they've got 2 or 3 options of training for that day. So they're just not fixated on one thing, depending how they feel. They can get outside once a day, like the government regs, in terms of getting some fresh air and getting a bike session done or a run session done. Or they can do an indoor session. They've both got gym stuff at the home, which they invested in. Danny has turned to Zwift as a new project and really enjoying that one and getting some riding in on the Zwift. And Matt's actually took to running. So each day they've got 2 or 3 options. Generally they're doing 3 weeks on and then they're having a week where they can just relax and really bank the work they've been doing. And away from that, we just try and keep it really fun. Keep challenging with little games, little targets in terms of 5K times in running, and just making sure they're keeping that enthusiasm and they've got something to aim for each day.
Yeah. How's that been for you two boys? How's that adaptation been? I know it's got to be a really frustrating time for you, just for everyone, I'm sure. But how's it been, sort of making that adaptation and trying to readjust your focus onto just staying in shape, really, rather than having a race to focus at?
Obviously, when all the races started to get cancelled, it wasn't so much for shock. I think for a few weeks before the races actually got cancelled, we could kind of see it come in. But yeah, it's not been too bad. I like to keep my head down and just keep working anyway. So, but like Dixie said, it's nice to have a few little goals I'm working towards. And sub 20 minute 5K. So just little goals and stuff to keep me interested and enjoy my training, really.
Yeah, sounds good. Well done.
It gives them both the opportunity as well to do, like Matt's got a goal of sub 20 minute 5K. That wouldn't normally be in the program now. We'd normally be racing bikes. So we've just looked left and right. Danny just completed a charity ride 100 kilometres 2 days ago on Zwift. Again, wouldn't normally do that. We're just looking for different things and different challenges for the boys.
This time has enabled me to potentially train a little bit harder and rest quite well, because obviously you're not allowed to leave the house, really. And if you do, it has to be essential, whereas usually I'd maybe nip out here and there and go for a coffee with friends or do one thing or another, whereas now it's just training and being in the house, so you're not really wasting your time and wasting money, and it's been quite good, really.
Right then, Matt, you like a good racing question, don't you?
Yeah, bring it on.
Really haven't got one for you. I'll top question now. No racing going on at the moment. Who would win in a Madison Saracen pub brawl? So 2 weeks locked in his house and Thomas is already feeling a bit punchy. Who's walking out the place?
I don't know. Last man standing between you, Will, and Scott, I'd say.
Oh,
Depending on how much each of you are drunk.
I'd probably be stone cold sober, so that's got to help my chances a little bit, just to get a slight right hooking on Scotty before I run out the door.
I might not be standing. I don't know whether it'll be off the drink or off getting paid.
Scott wouldn't want to mucky his t-shirt though, so he'd be stood up the whole time.
Take it off.
He'd have his white jeans with his flip-flops on, wouldn't he? Yeah, we don't really have a serious answer for you, but it wasn't a very serious question to be fair. So.
Andy Player asks, this is for you, Will. How much input do your riders have on bike design? And the second part is, what do you look for in sponsoring a rider?
Okay. Well, that's a really easy one. It's a big part of why we have the team. Really, the Mist is basically the same bike that you can buy, and we put a lot of energy into making it the best it can be for us to win races on, and then, of course, to be able to put it in a box so people can buy it and pull out a World Cup winning race bike. So it's important for us for you guys to be involved right at the very top level, making that bike as good as it can possibly be, and then that filters through. That's the Saracen Mist that you boys ride, and then that filters down. Then everything that we adapt and change to make that the best it can be, that filters right through the range with the aerials and the other bikes and the mantras, and it just gives us that edge really to make sure we're on top of the technology. So, and that's quite similar actually. You think about it with the clothing, Madison clothing. Everything that we ride and try out and race in is then adapted and made right for the trail market. So, just everyone really that's involved with the bikes at Madison and the clothing is just into what they do. They love bikes, they love riding, and I think that shines through really. It's cool to be a part of it all, and that's a big part of why I like why I like being involved with the team. I've raced for a long time, but having the involvement with bike design and things like that, it's just it's really cool to be a part of. Okay, let's take a short break from the questions. Just to let you know that the team's put a video out which managed to get done just before the UK went into lockdown. Feels like a long time ago now, but it's important to keep smiling in these difficult times. So check the video out. New bikes for 2020 and our new kit. I guess we'll have to wait a little while before we get a chance to ride it now, but that's just the way it is. If you want to watch it, you can see it on our YouTube channel or find it pretty easily through the boys' social media accounts if you haven't seen it already. Okay, Dixie, I've got a question for you actually before we get back to the other stuff. Obviously, at the moment, one of the big things for everyone, not just bike riders, is staying mentally positive and keep your mental well-being in shape. That can be quite difficult. People have financial worries, people have job worries. Like tips for the boys and tips for everybody out there. Really, what's a good way to go about keeping yourself sane in this in lockdown?
Yeah, so I think for the athletes, one of the main things that's changed is the travel and kind of getting around and being able to get outside and ride their bikes. So we're not used to spending so much time indoors, and we're not used to kind of not being in control of our own lives. So I think for athletes and families, create a routine. Routine is really going to look after you, really going to provide a base so you can get the best out of your days. Limit news. I personally just looking at news and getting the roundup at the end of the day. Too much news, it's often quite a lot of negative stories in there. Really turn your focus to positive things. So set yourself little goals, and might be a new sport, might be a new hobby, might be a new project you've got going. Away from that, I think try and exercise or get fresh air once a day. The athletes are all exercising. I think that's really important at dealing and helping you cope with anxiety and stress. Away from that, I think my final thing would be speak to family, speak to friends, create team meetings like this one, and I say definitely speak to fellow competitors and see how the situation is in different countries and kind of support each other as a team.
Good. Okay, boys. Right, let's get back to some of these questions we've had sent in. Then, Danny, I think you've got one there from Matt Haley.
Yeah, Matt says rate Bullhead out of 10 for his driveways. That's funny because Bullhead is Dave Wardell, an ex-racer who I think Will shared a team with him. There's a lot of guys who've travelled with him. I think Scott's travelled with him as well from time to time. And he's turned his attention now to like the construction industry there. He's just built a full extension on my garage for my bikes and for my little gym that I've got set up. And if I have to mark him out of 10, I would probably say it's 9.5, 9 3/4. He just drops that quarter because he spends a lot of time at the builder's merchant drinking the free coffee and eating the free hot dogs. So, but no, he's done a superb job. Him and his boys did a great extension on the back of the house there. But I don't think he'd like it if you just called him somebody who, what do you call it, He doesn't just do driveways, put it that way. Some of the jobs he's done are pretty spectacular.
Yeah, there's a certain kind of people that just do driveways, but we probably should.
Yeah.
Okay. One for the mechanics now, Danny, is that right?
Question for the mechanics now from Chris Riak. He wants to know, once we get to a race, how long does it take to set up everything for the weekend and the truck and all of that sort of thing? And how dramatic or subtle are the changes the mechanics and the riders make to the bikes for each track?
Yeah, I mean, you're probably looking 3 to 4 hours once we actually get to a venue and sort of work out where we need to be, and we've sort of shuffled Danny's camper in and shuffled the truck around and getting it into position. By the time we've sort of built the pits and pulled everything out of the insides of the truck and filled the water tanks up and emptied the toilet, yeah, kind of 3 to 4 hours, I would say. Yeah, it just depends how long we've driven for, really, I guess.
Then it takes another day and a half to actually get the rest of Yeah, I think the record for packing up is about 45 minutes. Again, I think Chris Rack also wants to know how dramatic or subtle are the changes you make to the bike to suit each track. So I think he just wants to get an idea on bike set up from venue to venue. Once you've got those pits set up in 4.5 hours.
It's, to be fair, I mean, out of the box now, the Fox suspension we use is pretty good. We'll do a little bit of testing before a race in the winter and stuff, and we'll do a test at Loser with Fox, getting everything fine-tuned. And from race to race, not a great deal of changes, unless there's massive temperature changes or stuff like that. The suspension works so well, we don't need to do a lot. The main change happens from the first day of practice, really. So first few runs, they're generally a little bit, I want to say like a little bit, not slow on the bike, but slower than they were when they last rode the bike. So the last rode the bike in a race run, so they were going as fast as they possibly can at the start of the day. But then by the end of the day, come qualifying, the bike is pretty much where it was at the week before for race run. So we'll see what happens.
I know you've only had a few rides on them really before we got locked down. But any feelings from you really on that new suspension? I know there's been some changes and there's some refinement that's made all the difference with that stuff now. It's made a good product, absolutely fantastic what we can see. So how's that translated to you guys so far on the few rides you've had?
Yeah, for me, I can definitely feel the refinement and the work that the guys at Fox have put into their suspension, and I think the stuff we're riding on at the minute, the new 2021 products are the best quality stuff I've ever used so far in my career, that's for sure. When we were out at Fox Test, actually, the weather wasn't the best, so it was quite hard to feel the differences between the last year's product and this. But now I've had some time on the bike at home and riding some tracks that I know, and I can just jump on my bike and ride fast and I'm confident on. You can really tell the differences between, and the new stuff definitely feels more sensitive, and you can just charge into the bumps a lot better, and it just the bike just soaks it up a lot better. So yeah, I'm happy to be riding all the new stuff, and just a shame we can't go racing because it works so well. I'm excited to go and ride my bike.
The new fork and shock's been absolutely amazing. The new shock, what I put on last year was around Mont Saint Anne, and it was life changing. So I was really looking forward to going racing on the more production based stuff that was more redefined again. But due to circumstances we're in, that hasn't been possible. But I'm definitely excited to go racing with the new stuff.
Ewan, I think you've got one there from Danny Casoli, is that right?
Yeah, so Danny wants to know how are overseas races planned and organised for the team. So I guess that's to you, that one, Will.
Right back at me, yeah. Well, we'll get the race schedule, certainly for the World Cup, say July, August, the year before. So I'll start looking at venues and flights and travel right from then, really. So we start by putting a team planner together of what days the truck will travel, what day the riders will fly out, or what days they will start travelling, and then when we'll arrive, hire cars, everything else, just everything that goes with it is planned for each race. Probably 6 to 8-9 months in advance. And then obviously at the moment I've got the opposite scenario. I'm cancelling and getting refunds for races one by one at the moment, which is quite a sad thing to be doing after all the preparation. But everything's staying in place as much as it can be for those races to come up, and we've just got to hope that eventually we maybe do get to go racing this year. So we've just got to wait and see. Ian Wilkie wants to know, at what age did the current team members start racing downhill, and do you feel that it's easily accessible for kids looking to enter the sport these days? So, Matt, that's a good one for you. I think you've done that most recently out of all of us, sort of got into the sport and progressed through it. How do you feel that it is nowadays involved in downhill racing?
I think as a whole, it's pretty easy to get into. I didn't start that long ago. I guess I think it was the January of 2012. I first did my first downhill race. So, but yeah, to be honest, I found it quite easy to get into. There's a good mini downhill series at the Forest of Dean, and they run a summer series and a winter series. So that's where I did my first race. I know a lot of people my age and a couple of years older started there as well. They also do a rippers category, so that's from kids from 10 to 12 years old, so they can get a couple of years of racing under their belts before they go to the bigger tracks at nationals and so on. So I think it's pretty accessible, and yeah, it's good.
Sounds good. Danny, I think you when you started downhill racing, you started a year early, is that right? You had to get special permission from British Cycling.
Yeah, so I raced downhill from probably, I think I was 11 years old. I was actually 2 years too young at the time to race, but I'd been racing BMX and I wasn't coming from nothing. So British Cycling actually came and did they examined me riding to see if I was safe enough. It was actually in Eleathan like I said, I'll have been probably 11 years old, and you're not meant to race until you're 13. So yeah, I started a couple of years earlier than was allowed at the time. But yeah, I definitely think now the times have changed, and there is the smaller races for the younger kids, like Matt was saying, the mini downhill series, and the bikes now are catered for younger kids and smaller ones. So yeah, it's definitely a lot easier now than it was back when I first started.
Yeah, I think you're right. I definitely think you're right, which is really good to see. We've made that progression and made it easy for people to get involved. So I think that's cool. Scott, I got a good one from Dean Bryson. He wants to know, what's the quickest Danny's managed to break a component that you have literally just fixed or replaced?
This one would have to be probably left-hand brake lever, rear brake lever. He seems to like to crash in left-hand turns quite a bit, so it is more user error. Pretty much done it half a turn into Maribor. But he's not too bad on components, to be fair. He's pretty good. He's consistent. He's very good at getting faster as the day goes on, not push yourself too far. So he isn't too bad. He's good to work for. Anyways, Danny, Matt Andrews, what do you look for when you're track walking at a World Cup?
I think for the World Cups mainly, we've usually been to them all, so we have a good idea of where the track goes. But we'll obviously just clarify that that's where it goes, and we see how they've taped it. See if you can go high there or open a corner up here and things like that. And then I often try to figure out where the split times are going to be, because I section it down in training sometimes. And then, yeah, just generally to see where they've taped it and what we've got to deal with. And then after a qualifying run on a Friday or a Saturday, then I will go and walk it to have a look and see if there's any lines that I've missed, or see where there's a smoother line, or see what I can change. But if we're talking about a normal amateur racer who's just going to race on the weekend, and they might have to walk it on a Saturday morning before training, or if you can get there on a Friday night, you can walk it. But you've just got to walk it to see what's coming up and have a brief idea of where you're going to put your wheels when you practice. It's important not to get too hung up on it, and if you're missing things when you're riding, just don't get too stressed about it, and just try and figure it out as the day goes by.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for that, boys. I think that's all the questions for this week. We're just going to have a little bit of fun to finish. Listen carefully, everybody. We've got a quick fire quiz now for you. Coach Dixie's going to play Quizmaster. And then if everybody gets their answers in on the comments on our YouTube channel, we'll find a prize. And the first person on the comments to get them all right will win a prize. Okay, Dixie, over to you. 10 questions.
Okay, question number 1. Who is the heaviest member of the Madison Saracen factory racing team? Question number 2. How many national titles does the whole team have as a collective? So how many? Question number 3. Who makes the best brew on a World Cup race weekend in the team? Question number 4. Who snores the loudest on the team and who is the person that nobody wants to share with in the hotel? Question number 5. How many miles has Ewan done on his wife's Zwift account? Question number 6. How many years has Matt Walker been on the Madison Saracen factory racing team? Question number 7. How many World Cup wins and World Championship titles has Danny and Matt got all together? Question number 8. How many sponsors do we have as a team? What is the total number of sponsors we have for 2020 as a team? Question number 9. How many race wins did we get as a team in 2019? And question number 10. What is Danny Hart's time for a 5K run?
Have a think about those questions and get your answers on the comments on our YouTube channel, and we'll find a prize for the first person to get all of those right. That's about it from us for now. Hope you've enjoyed it. Stay safe, look after yourselves, and I hope this nightmare ends soon. That's the coronavirus, not this podcast. Man, I really want to go bike racing. Bye for now. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Who's Matt Hart?
Yeah, who's Matt Hart?
Who said Matt Hart?
You.
Oh, no.